Some time ago, the James Webb Space Telescope spotted a super bizarre space object flying through our galaxy. First of all, it's not orbiting any star. It's a rogue object, just drifting through space on its own. Even better, this wandering thing apparently has a cake-like atmosphere, and examining it can be crucial in our future exoplanet research. Plus, it can help us understand how gas giants evolve over time and what might happen to Jupiter in the future. You may object that Earth has a layered atmosphere too, with 5 major and several secondary layers. But on Earth, the air is mostly nitrogen and oxygen. As for other planets, they're different. Take Venus, for example, where the atmosphere is super thick and filled with sulfuric acid. There are exoplanets with water vapor clouds, or ones where the clouds are literally made of hot sand. But what about our rogue object? By the way, I have no clue why it got this reputation, but for some reason, scientists chose to call it SIMP. Ouch. Anyway, it seems to have its own unique combo, with cloud patches and weird chemical reactions happening high up. It is covered in clouds made of iron and magnesium, and its atmosphere has carbon-based chemicals floating around. Scientists have spotted auroras on it. Yep, like the northern lights we have on Earth, but way out in deep space. It's the very first time researchers have been able to do a sort of weather report on a rogue object like this. The next weirdness? The object doesn't really fit into any box. It's not a regular planet, because it doesn't orbit a star. But it's also smaller than a brown dwarf, which is something like a failed star. So it's something in between. Not quite a planet, not quite a star. And while it's not dangerous in the we're all doomed kind of way, scientists say rogue objects like this could actually mess things up pretty seriously if they wandered too close to a solar system. Their gravity might throw off the orbits of planets, which could lead to instability, or even space collisions. So yeah, while our rogue friend is not a threat right now, it might become one in the future. Now, this rogue object has some crazy stuff going on. First off, its day is only 2.4 hours long. Like, imagine the sun rising and setting in that time. That's real fast. It's also hanging out about 20 light-years away in the Carina Nebula, which isn't super far in space terms. Another thing that makes this guy special is the fact that it's the brightest free-floating object of its kind that we can see from the northern hemisphere. And since it's just drifting in space without a nearby star messing with our view, it's been directly photographed by telescopes, like NASA's Spitzer. That's actually super rare for stuff this faint and far. When scientists checked it out in infrared, aka heat vision, they noticed that the atmosphere of this rogue object was acting weird, like it kept changing, sometimes more heat, sometimes less. Something funky was going on, but what exactly? So, in July 2023, one team of scientists used the James Webb Space Telescope to dig deeper. They pointed it at SIMP and gathered a ton of data, around 6,000 measurements in just a few hours. First, they looked at shortwave radiation, which is kind of like high-energy heat, and then they did the same with longer waves a few hours later. They discovered that the brightness changed differently depending on the wavelength. Some parts of the atmosphere got brighter, some dimmer, and some didn't change at all. It was all over the place, but they noticed a pattern. All the changes fell into 3 groups. Each group had its own vibe, like its own little signature of what was going on in the atmosphere. And it turned out that the mysterious object wasn't just floating alone in space. It was super dynamic, with layers of clouds and gases doing their own thing. It could mean 3 different things were going on in the atmosphere. To figure out what exactly was behind all this, they built models of the rogue object's atmosphere. Apparently, the first group of curves likely came from low clouds made of iron. Yeah, iron, like actual metal clouds. The second group seemed to come from higher clouds made of this mineral called forsterite, which is basically a magnesium-rich crystal. And it looks like these cloud layers aren't smooth, they're patchy. That patchiness could explain why the light coming from them keeps changing so much. As for the third group of light patterns, they weren't coming from clouds at all. The light seemed to be coming from way above the clouds, from what they think are hotspots in the atmosphere. These hotspots are probably connected to radio auroras, kind of like Earth's northern lights, but happening in the radio part of the light spectrum instead of visible light. But even after all that modeling, there were still some mysteries left. Like the first group of curves was all over the place, more than they expected. So they think it might be because of carbon-based gases like carbon monoxide floating around. They might absorb certain types of light at random times. In any case, this is the first time we've actually seen this kind of atmospheric chaos directly. But the few hours the researchers spent watching it weren't enough to fully figure it out. To really get the full picture, they'll need days of data, and they're hoping to use NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, set to launch in 2027, to dive even deeper. Even though this mysterious object is not a rogue planet, they're definitely worth mentioning. These are basically planets that got kicked out of their home solar system. Yeah, like straight up evicted. When a planet forms, it's usually hanging out with a bunch of other planets around a star. But early on, things can get super chaotic. You know, planets crashing, shifting, getting too close to each other. And sometimes, one gets yeeted right out of the system. So since they're not tied to a star, these rogue planets are just cruising through the galaxy, totally solo. If they happen to float near something massive, like a star or a black hole, that thing's gravity can tug at them. But otherwise, they just keep drifting. Most of them probably got booted when their system was still forming, and everything was a mess. But according to a NASA scientist, even mature systems can throw a planet out if the orbit gets too weird or something big knocks into them. Now, the next planet we gotta discuss isn't rogue. It has a parent star and all. But there's another cool thing about it. It's still a baby in the middle of forming, and it's pretty rare to catch in action. The baby is already about 3 times the size of Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system. It's part of a system about 400 light-years away. It's been growing for about 5 million years, munching on gas and dust from the disk around its star, kinda like a cosmic buffet. But the thing is, when astronomers checked out the chemicals in the planet's atmosphere using a big telescope in Hawaii, things didn't add up. They were specifically looking at carbon monoxide and water, which can help figure out how much carbon and oxygen is floating around in that atmosphere. Turns out, the planet's chemical mix doesn't quite match the stuff in the disk it's forming from. That's a big deal because it goes against what scientists thought they knew about how planets are supposed to form. Basically, it's saying, hey, your fancy models might be a bit too simple. Planets are supposed to form by clumps of gas and dust crashing into each other and sticking together. Over time, they build up into full-blown planets. If that's true, then planets and their surrounding gas should have the same kind of stuff in them, chemically speaking. But PDS-70b is doing its own thing. So the scientists came up with 2 ideas to explain what was going on. It might be forming from solid stuff, like dust and ice, not just the gas in the disk. That solid material has carbon and oxygen trapped inside. So, by the time it melts and goes into the planet, it's already changed the chemistry. Or the gas in the disk got more carbon after the planet already formed. Luckily, there's another planet in the same system, PDS-70c. And scientists are hoping that by checking it out too, they'll be able to figure out the truth.
Now, if Earth were the size of a nickel, Neptune would be about as big as a baseball. That's impressive, but it's nothing compared to the giant 9th planet that might be hiding out there. Now, our Planet 9's discovery saga might have finally come to an end. Turns out, the problem wasn't where we were looking, but how. And researchers might have just made the biggest solar system discovery in decades. You see, the idea of finding a planet beyond Neptune has been around for years now. I know, back in school, you probably learned that the ninth planet was Pluto. But forget about Pluto. It's been demoted to a less fancy category since 2006. What I'm talking about is the Planet 9, a hypothetical giant planet that could be our cosmic neighbor. We've never actually seen it, but scientists are pretty sure it's out there somewhere, hiding in the outer solar system. To explain why they think that, we need a sheet of paper. Hey, here's one. We place a coin on it, and suddenly, it starts to move. Unless we're talking about some kind of superpower, there's no way this coin is moving on its own, right? So, you figure someone must be on the other side, holding a magnet and moving it around. You can't see the magnet, but it explains why the coin is moving. That's kind of what's happening with Planet 9. We can't see it, we can't prove it, yet, but its existence could explain the strange movements we see out there in space. For example, the planets in our solar system orbit on a flat plane that's tilted about 6 degrees relative to the Sun. But why 6 degrees? Well, no one really knows for sure. Some scientists think those orbits might be slightly tilted because of the pull of a ninth planet. Its existence could also explain the unusual paths of smaller objects in the distant Kuiper Belt, a region full of icy debris that stretches far beyond Neptune's orbit. Back in 2016, researchers from Caltech published a study about Planet 9. They suggested it could have a mass about 10 times that of Earth and follow a highly elongated path. It's a scientific way of saying it takes forever to make one trip around the Sun. Because of that, it would be located in the outer solar system. I mean, far, far away. It would orbit the Sun about 20 to 30 times farther out than our most distant planet, Neptune. According to scientists, Planet 9 would take up to 20,000 Earth years to complete just one full orbit around the Sun. Since it's crazy far out there, it's almost impossible to see it. So, as cool as this hypothesis sounds, we've never found solid evidence that Planet 9 actually exists. But we might be pretty close. In May 2025, a team at National Tsinghua University might have made one of the most exciting solar system discoveries ever. Alright, so there's a hypothesis that Planet 9 hasn't been discovered yet because we haven't been using the right method. This new study raises an interesting question. What if Planet 9 actually looks brighter in infrared light than it does in visible light? Let me explain. Scientists have been trying to spot Planet 9 by its reflected light. But here's the problem. To spot it in visible wavelengths, sunlight would have to travel all the way out to Planet 9, bounce off its surface, and then travel all the way back to Earth. If a Neptune-sized planet were about 10 times farther away than Neptune, it would look about 10,000 times fainter. But a planet's own thermal radiation, its heat, only has to make a one-way trip. So in infrared light, Planet 9 would only be about 100 times fainter. That's why it makes more sense to look for it using space-based infrared telescopes. And that's the idea behind this new study. The team started digging through archives, searching for old infrared sky survey data, and they pulled it from two main sources. First, IRIS, a satellite launched in the 80s that scanned the sky for almost a year. Then, the Japanese satellite Akari, another infrared observatory that operated between 2006 and 2011. So basically, they compared objects that showed up in IRIS database and noticed which ones had moved by the time Akari took its observations. And by doing that, the researchers found something incredible, an object that might just be our long-lost ninth planet. Because if something moves, it could be a planet orbiting the Sun, right? And yeah, they did find some celestial objects showing tiny movements. But before jumping to conclusions, they had to rule out the parallax effect. And that's something really important when we're talking about solar system discoveries. To explain it, I need you to do something. Hold one finger in front of your face. Close one eye, and now switch. Your finger seems to move a tiny bit, right? That's because you're looking at it from a slightly different angle, from one eyeball to the other. The same thing happens when we look out into space from Earth. Since our planet orbits the Sun, our view of very distant objects shifts just a little. That effect is called parallax. My point is, because of this effect, Planet 9 would appear to move across the sky as Earth goes around the Sun. On any given day, it might seem to be in one spot, but 6 months later, when Earth is on the opposite side of the Sun, it would look like it shifted. 6 months after that, it would seem to move back again. Scientists had to account for parallax. Actually, they had to remove its effects. So the team looked at images of the sky taken on the same date every year. Because on that same date, Earth is always in the same spot in its orbit. That means if Planet 9 is real, it would show up in the same place in those images every year. No fake wiggle from parallax, just its real position. This careful search led them to a single object, a tiny dot in the infrared data. This strange little spot had moved slightly along its orbit around the Sun over the 23 years between Iris and Akari. Wait, could that be it? Did astronomers just confirm a hidden planet? Well, maybe. But don't get too excited. The data we have on its motion over that time is not enough to figure out its full orbit. So, for now, we still can't say for sure if this mysterious object is really Planet 9. It's definitely a strong candidate, though. Based on how bright the object appears, the team estimates it could be pretty massive, and that came as a big surprise. You see, previous NASA research ruled out any Jupiter-sized or Saturn-sized planets hiding out there, but a smaller world would have gone undetected. So the scientists were looking for something just a bit bigger than Earth. But it turns out this mysterious planet might be more massive than Neptune. Now that they've discovered Planet 9, supposedly at least, the plan is to keep tracking it and collecting new data. But don't think the road ahead will be easy. Because since the Akari satellite spotted it for the first time, that object didn't just sit still. It's been moving slowly through space ever since. So now scientists need to use regular telescopes on Earth to look for it again. And here's the tricky part. They're not exactly sure where it moved to, so they have to search a pretty big patch of the sky. And so far, no matching object has been found. Whether this really turns out to be the Planet 9 discovery or not, only time will tell. For now, its existence is still up for debate. But with powerful new technology on the way, like NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, astronomers are more determined than ever to uncover the truth. And if Planet 9 really is out there, hiding in the cold, dark edges of our solar system, it's running out of places to hide.
Have you heard about Planet 9? No, not Pluto. We're talking about something lurking on the outskirts of the solar system. A mysterious planet that exists in our solar system that we haven't yet discovered. We've been looking for it for years, but finally, it seems like scientists found a key to solve this mystery. Planet 9 is a hypothetical planet. Astronomers have been on the hunt for it for quite some time now. But it's so elusive that they've only been able to piece together a few details about its potential characteristics. One thing we do know is that Planet 9 has to be a massive world, possibly up to 10 times the mass of Earth. That's one big planet. It's also thought to be a distant wanderer, hanging out somewhere between Neptune and Pluto. Some scientists think that Planet 9 might actually be a mini Neptune, with a thick, gaseous atmosphere and a rocky core. Others speculate that it could be an icy world with a solid, frozen surface and a thick layer of hydrogen and helium gas. Of course, since we haven't actually found Planet 9 yet, we can't say for sure what it's like. We're not even sure that it even exists. Some say it's just a myth, like the Tooth Fairy or the Easter Bunny, but others are convinced that it's out there somewhere. And at the end of the day, we're not entirely sure if Planet 9 is even a planet. It might be a special kind of black hole or made entirely of dark matter. The search for Planet 9 began in the early 21st century when a group of astronomers realized that something wasn't quite right with the outer reaches of our solar system. They noticed that some distant objects, known as trans-Neptunian objects, were behaving in unexpected ways. Trans-Neptunian objects, or TNOs, are like the cosmic version of those items in the back of your fridge that you forgot about for years. They're small, icy bodies that hang out in the Kuiper Belt, beyond Neptune. So, scientists noticed that these guys started behaving weirdly. At first, they thought it might be a fluke. But as they dug deeper, they began to suspect that there was a ninth planet lurking out there. Why haven't we discovered it yet, you ask? Well, it may be because of Planet 9's weird orbit. All the other 8 planets orbit the Sun in roughly the same plane, which is like a flat disk. However, our hypothetical friend's orbit is different. It might be tilted and move in a different direction compared to the other planets. Its orbit might also be stretched out like an oval, rather than being nearly circular like usual. Because of this, Planet 9 might spend most of its time far from the Sun, like a true introvert. It only comes relatively close to the inner solar system every few thousand years. This would make it super faint and hard to spot, so the only way we may discover it is by studying the gravitational effects it has on our solar system. And this isn't the first time astronomers have gone looking for a new planet. Back in the 19th century, there was a similar hunt for a hypothetical Planet X. But this time, they were armed with much better technology and a much better sense of humor. They began calling their elusive quarry Planet 9, which was much catchier than Planet X. They even came up with a hashtag for the search, Pluto Lives. It was a reference to the fact that Pluto had been kicked from the planet gang, and some astronomers were eager to find a new planet to take its place. But the search for Planet 9 has been no easy task. It's like trying to find a lost sock in the laundry basket the size of a football stadium. It's so far away and so faint that even the most powerful telescopes can't see it. Instead, astronomers have had to rely on indirect evidence, like the strange orbits of TNOs, to try to figure out where it might be. Some scientists have even supposed that it might be a wandering rogue planet, which would explain why it's so hard to find. But they haven't given up hope. Till this day, they're scouring the skies using all sorts of high-tech telescopes and fancy algorithms to try and spot this elusive planet. And fear not, dear curious human, because it looks like after so many years of research, we may have finally found the key to solve this mystery. Astronomer Man Ho Chan from Hong Kong has a theory. He believes that Planet 9 could have a bevy of moons. That's right, not only is it a giant planet hiding out in the depths of space, but it's also a bit of a hoarder. Moons are all the rage in the outer solar system. In fact, almost every planet here has at least one moon, except for Mercury and Venus. Earth has just one, which is kind of sad if you think about it. Even non-planetary bodies like Pluto have at least a couple of moons. A bit unfair, isn't it? Anyway, taking this into account, let's go moon picking with Planet 9. The region between the rock-filled Kuiper Belt and the rock-filled Oort cloud, where this planet is predicted to be, should be ripe for the picking. Chan made some calculations and determined that it would be stranger if the elusive planet didn't have any satellites. According to his calculations, an object the mass of Planet 9 should capture at least 20 TNOs as large as almost 90 miles across. It's like our mysterious planet is playing cosmic Pokemon with these guys. So, what if Planet 9 has moons? Would that make any difference? Kinda, yes. They could give us some indirect clues to finally locate this mysterious planet. Now, you might be thinking, how in the cosmos can we possibly spot these teeny tiny moons? It's not like they're going to wave a giant flag or blast some Beyoncé tunes to get our attention. Well, apparently the key lies in something called tidal heating. Tidal heating might sound like a new workout trend, but it's a real scientific phenomenon. It happens when two celestial bodies are close together. You see, tides aren't just about the rise and fall of the ocean, they're also the result of gravity pulling unevenly on a planet or moon. When a planet and a moon are close enough to each other, their gravity pulls on each other, creating a bit of a football shape. And as these celestial bodies move around each other, they shift shape and generate friction inside, which produces heat. Wow, who knew that Planet 9 could have a workout routine? Perhaps we should start calling it Gym Planet instead. Anyway, if Planet 9 has any moons, the gravitational pull from these moons would cause it to change shape constantly, generating heat in the process. And we might be able to detect this mysterious planet through the heat produced by those moons, even though it gives off no other signals. Now, before you get too excited, finding them won't be a walk in the park. They're incredibly small and would be very far away from us. But hey, nothing worth discovering ever came easy, right? Scientists are optimistic that with the right technology, they can spot this telltale sign. It will be easier for us to spot them with fancy instruments like modern telescopes. Talk about cool friends to have, right? Sure, the process of finding it may be difficult and time-consuming, but the potential payoff is huge. Finding this planet could explain a lot of the strange behavior observed in TNOs, the Kuiper Belt, and beyond. As we've already mentioned, they've been acting super weird lately, tilting and aligning in suspicious ways. If this planet doesn't actually exist, we have yet to explain what is the reason for this strange behavior. In any case, the search for Planet 9 is one of the most exciting and intriguing quests in modern astronomy. It's like a cosmic scavenger hunt, and everyone's invited to join in on the fun. So, grab your telescopes and let's go planet hunting. Who knows, maybe we'll find it sooner than we think.
These two sky photos were taken less than an hour apart. Play Spot the Difference and you'll notice that some bright dots disappeared. Before you think, oh, stars do that sometimes. Spoiler, they don't. This looks more like a human-made spacecraft passing through the shot. But here's the twist. The photos were taken in 1952, and that's 5 years before we even launched our first object into space. So, what are those dots? Could they be signs of artificial objects made by extraterrestrials? Well, yes, they could. At least that's one of the hypotheses proposed by researcher Beatriz Villarroel at Stockholm University in Sweden. She recently published 2 papers trying to explain these disappearing points of light in photos from the early 1950s, what her team calls transients. So, these are star-like objects of unknown origin that showed up in the first Palomar Observatory sky survey. This was a major astronomy project in California that used a nearly 50-inch telescope that produced almost 2,000 photographic plates of the northern night sky. And there's no denying it, the transients were there. And they were acting weird, disappearing all of a sudden. So scientists had to find an explanation, and that brings us to 4 big hypotheses about what they actually are. Hypothesis number 1. Stars. This is a cool theory because we can actually test it. Go outside tonight and look at the stars. Pay attention to where they are in the sky. Then check again tomorrow night. You might notice that a few stars seem to disappear. But they didn't vanish forever. They're just harder to see. They can get washed out by normal stuff like clouds, haze, humidity, or even bright moonlight. All of that can hide stars from your view for a while, but they'll show up again eventually. So could those transients from the 50s have been stars, and the survey just caught a moment where they seemed to disappear for a sec? You see, astronomers have plenty of things in the sky that look like they vanish. For example, variable stars, whose brightness goes up and down. You've also got supernovae, passing asteroids, and active galaxies that can flare and fade. These changes can happen over minutes, days, or even years. But here's the problem. These transients don't really behave like that. In the old plates, they show up once, and then they're completely missing from images taken both before and after that. I mean, astronomers didn't see them on a blue sensitive plate taken just 30 minutes earlier. They didn't show up on a red sensitive plate taken 6 days later either. Whatever these things were, they were strange because there were so many of them and they were gone so fast. One moment they're there and then they never show up again. That's really odd. So no, they probably weren't stars. What seems more likely is that these flashes were sunlight reflecting off objects orbiting Earth. And that brings us to hypothesis number 2. They were satellites, or some other human-made spacecraft. You've got to remember, this was the 1950s, right when the space race was starting to take over headlines around the world. Everyone wanted to reach space, and they wanted to do it fast. So it's fair to ask, could this have been some kind of early satellite? And the answer is no. The Palomar survey plates were taken before the launch of the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, in 1957, so the timing doesn't really work, and that makes the human-made object theory pretty hard to support. Which brings us to hypothesis number 3, extraterrestrial objects. Yep, something like an aircraft or a satellite, but made by a highly advanced civilization out there. Something that could have been flying around back then, maybe even watching us, and then for some reason never landed on Earth. It's a wild theory. But when you look at how strange these transients are, you can see why some people take this idea seriously. One thing I didn't tell you is that not all the bright dots were perfect little circles. Sometimes they showed up as straight lines or thin bands. Other times they looked sharp, almost star-shaped. And here's the weird part. Patterns like that can happen when light reflects off something with a flat surface. A regular space rock like an asteroid usually wouldn't have flat, manufactured-looking faces like that. So the study raises the possibility that something artificial might have been up there before humans even started launching spacecraft. And here's where it gets even stranger. These transients showed up around the same time as a bunch of old reports of strange objects in the sky. That same number in 1952, and a lot of people claimed they saw unusual flying objects over Washington, D.C. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 sightings. The U.S. Air Force recorded a total of 717 reports during that period. That's a pretty wild coincidence, but extraterrestrial tech might not be the final answer. Some scientists lean toward a 4th hypothesis: human experiments. These newer studies suggest there could be a link to things happening down on Earth. In fact, more than half of the transients showed up the day after nuclear tests. One idea is that the flashes could have been debris from those tests getting thrown high up into the atmosphere. But this theory isn't perfect either. The transients left streaks on the images during the 50-minute exposure. And for that to make sense, the debris would have to stick around and stay concentrated in roughly the same spot for about 24 hours to match what we see. That's really hard to believe, if not basically impossible. Out in space, something doesn't stay fixed over one location for a full day unless it's being actively controlled. So for now, scientists still need more evidence before this can be the main explanation. Well, it kind of feels like we're out of hypotheses, right? And now you see why these transients are still such a big mystery. But there's a group of scientists who think the explanation might be way simpler than it sounds. They think it could all come down to a bad photo. I know, that's not exactly thrilling, but hear me out. We're talking about old images from the 1950s. And you don't have to be an expert to know that back then, sky photos were nothing like what we can capture today. These images were recorded on photographic plates. Basically, they were glass plates coated with a light-sensitive layer, used long before digital cameras to capture the night sky. For their time, it was a big deal. It meant astronomers could store what they saw instead of drawing it by hand. But those plates had problems. They were sensitive, they could get damaged, and the images weren't nearly as clean as what we get with modern digital sensors. These plates can have issues like scratches and tiny defects in the light-sensitive coating. The digitizing process can also add things that weren't really supposed to be in the image. Suddenly, you're seeing a bright dot that could actually be, I don't know, saliva? It turns out humidity can leave marks on photographic plates too. And if a scientist sneezed near a plate at some point, for example, that could have left a weird trace in the image. So if someone handled them badly decades ago, that could leave odd traces in the image. And researchers point out that some of the faintest transients show up in areas of the plates that look contaminated. To completely rule out this hypothesis, they need to inspect the original plates under a microscope. The problem is, the researchers don't have access to the originals. They're working with digitized copies. Still, Villarroel isn't fully convinced it's all just image errors. She says some of these transients line up in ways that are just too unlikely to be random. So the idea now is to keep digging into this with a project called ExoProbe. The goal of the program is to build a network of telescopes that will scan the sky for quick, sudden flashes of light. And if these transients are real, we might not have to wait much longer to find out.
For thousands of years, people knew only about the planets Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, which they could see using simple telescopes, or even by the naked eye if conditions were good. But in the late 18th century, a famous astronomer named Sir William Herschel discovered a new planet that was icy blue in color. At first, people thought it was a star, but later they realized it was a planet. Today, we know it as Uranus, a planet that's more than 19 times farther away from the Sun than Earth. It's so far away that it takes Uranus 84 years to complete one trip around the Sun. This astronomer also discovered many other interesting things in space, like double stars and nebulae. In the mid-1800s, scientists noticed something pulled Uranus and strangely tugged its orbit. They thought there must be another planet out there, and they used math to predict where it would be. Finally, in 1846, they found Neptune using a telescope. It was too faint to see with the naked eye because it was too far away from the Sun. It was all so exciting. Who knows how many other planets could be there, lurking in the darkness of our solar system? Back in the mid-1800s, astronomers noticed something unusual was happening in the sky. A small rocky planet named Mercury was behaving strangely. It didn't follow the predictable orbit that was expected of it. One of the astronomers was a brilliant French scientist named Urbain Le Verrier. He came up with a theory that there could be another planet in our solar system no one had yet discovered. It would be located somewhere between Mercury and the Sun. This hypothetical planet, which he named Vulcan after the Roman god of fire, would have an incredibly hot surface, and it could be a potential explanation for Mercury's strange behavior. He never surely claimed Vulcan was really the one thing disturbing the orbit of Mercury. But, excited by the possibility of discovering a new planet, astronomers all over the world took the idea of Vulcan. For a planet that didn't exist, people committed to developing ideas and getting information about it. Some scientists didn't think it was likely that they had missed another planet as big as Mercury. It would have been hard not to see it by then. But there was a tiny chance of a smaller planet existing inside Mercury's orbit that was too close to the Sun, so no one could see it. One theory said it was about 13 million miles away from the Sun. Mercury is the planet with the most eccentric orbit in our solar system, but the closest point it gets to the Sun is about 28.5 million miles. This means Vulcan would be under half of that distance. The theory moved on, saying that if Vulcan existed, it would orbit the Sun every 19 days and 18 hours, and its path would be tilted about 12 degrees relative to the path of other planets in our solar system. Vulcan's position at its furthest point from the Sun would still be too close to the Sun to be seen with the naked eye, even during twilight. The only chance of seeing Vulcan would be during a solar eclipse, or when it passed in front of the Sun, which, as the theory said, would be 2 to 4 times a year. They had a theory that this mysterious planet was so close to the Sun that it could only be seen during a total solar eclipse when the Moon blocked out the Sun's blinding glare. So, every time there was an eclipse, scientists would peer at the Sun, hoping to catch a glimpse of Vulcan. They were trying really hard, but no matter what, they couldn't find this mysterious planet. Some astronomers claim to have spotted it during eclipses, but no one could ever confirm or find evidence for that. The theory of Vulcan was left waiting for some better times. Einstein had a different idea. You know about his theory of general relativity, right? That's where he claimed gravity wasn't some sort of natural force, but a result of space-time curved because of the presence of giant space objects, like planets and stars. Planets circle around the sun in their usual orbit because space-time is curved. That means the planets are kind of falling towards the central star of our solar system. And Einstein tried to explain Mercury's unusual orbit using his own theory of relativity. Unlike the other planets in our solar system, Mercury's orbit wasn't that circular. Instead, it seemed to wobble slightly, as if there was an invisible force pulling it away. Einstein said this could be happening because the massive gravity of our sun was actually curving the fabric of space-time around it. He claimed it's possible this changed Mercury's orbit a little bit. It took the scientific community a while to test this theory, but it eventually seemed like the most plausible explanation. Even though Einstein's theory gave us a more elegant explanation for Mercury's strange orbit, some scientists were still holding out hope for Vulcan. It was especially hard to let go of the idea of Vulcan because Mercury is also the planet that's really hard to see from where we're standing. But later, more and more scientists started accepting Einstein's theory above their imagination, and they would observe a total solar eclipse specifically to test Einstein's theory of relativity, not because of Vulcan. And Vulcan is not the only hypothetical planet everyone was talking about. In the newer age, some believe there could be a mysterious planet lurking in the outer part of our solar system, but this one is more likely to exist. No one has seen it directly yet, but computer simulations show this so-called Planet 9, or Planet X, is probably somewhere there beyond Neptune. Neptune and Planet X could be similar in size. Planet X could be 10 times more massive than Earth and circles around our Sun in an elongated shape, which is on average 20 times farther from the Sun than Neptune. A year there may last between 10,000 to 20,000 Earth years. By comparison, a year on Neptune lasts 165 Earth years. Something this big moving out there beyond Neptune could explain the unusual orbits of smaller objects in the Kuiper Belt. The Kuiper Belt is the area of our solar system beyond Neptune and where it orbits. And there are most likely many asteroids, comets, and some other smaller bodies there, mostly made of ice. There was another hypothetical planet called Nibiru. Remember those rumors that the world could end back in 2012? One of the popular scenarios was Nibiru, which some claimed would hit our home planet at the end of the year. Of course, nothing happened. We're still here, all set and good, but the idea of Nibiru seemed interesting. Stories started in the 1970s when a man named Zecharia Sitchin mentioned Nibiru in his book, The 12th Planet, claiming it orbits the Sun every 3,600 years. But there's no chance a planet with such an eccentric orbit wouldn't disrupt other planets in our solar system with its gravity. And if it was really coming that close to Earth in 2012, we were supposed to be able to see it with the naked eye. Some simple calculations showed Nibiru would have been nearly as bright as Mars at its dimmest and brighter than the faintest stars you see from a city. Oh well, maybe we'll have more luck in the next 3,500 and something years. In 2011, a comet named Elenin appeared that many people thought could be Nibiru. But when you're looking at comets and planets through a telescope, you see they appear differently. A comet has a coma, which is a gas atmosphere, together with a tail, something a planet doesn't have. Plus, this comet didn't slam into the Earth. It came too close to our Sun and fell apart. The leftover pieces will continue moving on their way to the outer solar system for the next 12,000 years.
Across millennia, scattered among clay tablets, sacred scrolls, and whispered myths. Humanity has preserved haunting tales of a celestial anomaly, a rogue planet, a cosmic saboteur whose rare appearance heralds disaster and upheaval. The Sumerians called it Nibiru, the planet of crossing. Egyptians feared it as the destroyer. Biblical texts knew it as the wormwood star. Are these merely the colorful myths of ancient peoples, or are they fragmented memories of an all-too-real cosmic threat? Modern science, once quick to dismiss such legends, is now forced to reconsider. In 2016, astronomers Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown from Caltech presented mathematical evidence suggesting the existence of a massive planet at the far edge of our solar system, Planet 9. Their calculations describe a world 5 to 10 times the mass of Earth, on a highly elongated orbit that takes between 10,000 and 20,000 years to complete a single revolution around the Sun. Here's where ancient myth and modern astrophysics begin to blur. Sumerian cuneiform tablets, dating as far back as the 4th millennium BCE, contain astonishingly accurate astronomical data. They describe a solar system of 12 celestial bodies, including a mysterious 12th planet, Nibiru. How did ancient people know about Neptune, discovered only in 1846, or Pluto in 1930? Were they simply guessing, or did they remember something we've forgotten? One of the most controversial voices in this debate is researcher Zecharia Sitchin. He spent decades interpreting ancient Mesopotamian texts and proposed a radical theory that Nibiru is a habitable world with a sweeping elliptical orbit, home to an advanced race known as the Anunnaki, beings who once visited Earth. Mainstream academia has rejected Sitchin's translations, but the uncanny parallels between his claims and recent astronomical findings are hard to ignore. Let's focus on what the data tells us. Something is warping the orbits of distant objects in the Kuiper Belt, a vast icy region beyond Neptune. These objects behave as if being shepherded by a massive, unseen force. The dwarf planet Sedna, for example, follows a wildly unusual orbit that can't be explained by known gravitational influences. And then there's the Kuiper Cliff, an abrupt drop-off in the number of objects beyond 50 astronomical units. What's causing it? Something or someone. These anomalies have left astronomers scratching their heads and have fueled growing speculation that a massive, unseen planet is hiding in the dark outskirts of our solar system. Ancient texts from multiple civilizations describe apocalyptic upheavals linked to a celestial intruder. The Egyptian Ipuwer papyrus eerily recounts plagues and chaos. The river is blood, the earth turned upside down, days are shrouded in darkness. The Babylonian Epic of Era speaks of a time when the stars left their appointed paths. These aren't just poetic metaphors. They're historical shockwaves echoing from a forgotten trauma. So what happens if Nibiru, or Planet 9, makes its next approach? Even without a direct collision, the consequences could be catastrophic. Its gravity might tilt Earth's axis, triggering sudden climate shifts. It could awaken tectonic fault lines and stir dormant volcanoes. Disturbed asteroid belts might send deadly space rocks hurtling toward us. It could disrupt our magnetosphere, disabling electronics and satellites. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of this theory is the cycle. Sumerian texts suggest that Nibiru returns roughly every 3,600 years. If this is true, its last passage might have occurred around 1600 BCE, a time curiously aligned with the collapse of Bronze Age civilizations, a period marked by mass migrations, natural disasters, and inexplicable cultural decline. Was this coincidence or consequence? The clock might be ticking again. Today, the hunt for Planet 9 continues, using the world's most powerful telescopes and cutting-edge simulations. We stand on the edge of either confirming the greatest myth ever told, or revealing that ancient peoples tried, in the only language they had, to warn us. It may not bear the name Nibiru, it may not carry golden tablets or alien emissaries, but if it exists, its return will reshape everything we think we know about history, science, and our place in the cosmos. One thing is certain, our solar system is far from tamed. It harbors secrets in its coldest, darkest corners, riddles older than civilization itself. And perhaps, just perhaps, the old stories were never stories at all. Maybe they were prophecies. Maybe they were the echo of survivors. Maybe the star of change is already on its way.
Look at this giant donut-shaped region far away from Earth, beyond the orbit of Neptune. We're talking about a distance of more than 2.5 billion miles. It's the Kuiper Belt, and something eerie and bizarre is happening there. Dwarf planets and other small objects dwelling there refuse to cluster together. Instead, they follow particular orbits, which is weird. The reason might be a large, mysterious planet hiding beyond Pluto. Its gravity might be messing up the orbits of those Kuiper space bodies. Hear me out. Our solar system is made up of the Sun and everything that goes around it because of the star's strong gravity. This includes the 8 main planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. There are also smaller things like moons, asteroids, and Pluto. For a long time, people thought Pluto was the 9th planet, but when it was reclassified as a dwarf planet, scientists started looking for a new Planet X. Did they have a thing about odd numbers or what? And guess what? Some really think there might be a big, icy planet hiding far, far away beyond Neptune. This mystery planet is often called Planet 9. Now, Planet 9 hasn't been seen yet, but scientists think it might be out there because of some tiny, faraway space rocks called etnos that move following bizarre, confusing paths. These paths seem to be grouped together and tilted in a way that doesn't happen by chance. This could mean there's a hidden planet pulling them into place with its gravity. If Planet 9 is real, it might be 5 to 10 times heavier than Earth. It would also be super far away, hundreds of times farther from the Sun than Earth is. Over the years, scientists have guessed different distances for its orbit, and the newest guess in 2025 says it could be about 290 times farther from the Sun than Earth. There are some cool ideas about where Planet 9 came from. It might have started as a big planet that Jupiter once kicked out of the inner solar system, or it might have come from another star or even wandered around space on its own before getting caught by the Sun's gravity. Even though scientists have looked really hard using powerful telescopes, no one has actually seen Planet 9 yet, and so far, its existence is still just a theory. But recently, a group of researchers tried something clever. They used data from 2 special space surveys called IRAS and ACARI. These 2 looked at the sky in invisible light, far infrared, about 23 years apart, which is helpful because Planet 9 is supposed to move very slowly. The team focused on a special list from ACARI, which is better at finding faint, moving things in space. They guessed how bright Planet 9 might be and how fast it might move based on how big, far away, and cold it could be. Then they looked for matching blips in the sky that were seen by both IRAS and ACARI, but not in the exact same spot. That's because a real planet would have moved a little over 23 years, and they indeed found 13 possible matches that could be Planet 9. Their estimations were based on how far away the object seemed to be, 500 to 700 times farther from the Sun than Earth, and how heavy it might be, which is 7 to 17 times Earth's mass. After looking very carefully at all the images, they narrowed it down to one really good candidate. The two detections weren't in the same spot in both surveys, and the way they appeared in the Akari map matched what you'd expect from a slow-moving object. It showed up on one date and wasn't there 6 months earlier, but of course, there was a catch. Apparently, the old data isn't good enough to figure out the exact path of the potential planet. So, the team wants to do new follow-up observations using a special camera called DCAM, which is really good at spotting faint, moving objects. That way, they can find out if this candidate is really Planet 9. Additionally, it can help us learn more about how our solar system works and how it formed. If Planet 9 is ever discovered, it would totally change the way we understand our solar system. It could explain why some far-out space rocks in the Kuiper Belt tilt weirdly. The thing is, most planets go around the Sun in a flat-ish circle, but those faraway objects are tilted about 20 degrees. Planet 9 might be the reason why. Next, we'd probably find out why those tilted objects seem to point the same way. Their orbits are grouped together in one direction. A big hidden planet's gravity could be hurting them like sheep. There are also some strange tilted objects super far away. They don't make sense unless something big, like Planet 9, is tugging on them. A few space rocks orbit the Sun backward between the big planets, which is kinda the wrong way. That's super weird unless something big is messing with them. Some far-out Kuiper Belt objects keep crossing Neptune's path and haven't been flung away. That's because Planet 9 might be helping keep their orbits stable over a long time. Another cool thing is that if Planet 9 existed, it would be a super-Earth, a kind of planet we see a lot around other stars, but we don't have in our solar system yet. So finding one here would make our solar system more like the others out there. Throughout history, people have been wondering if there could be hidden planets far beyond Neptune, even before Pluto was found. Back in 1880, a guy named George Forbes guessed there might be two unknown planets way out there, one about 100 times farther from the Sun than Earth, and the other about 300 times farther. He thought these mystery planets might be pulling on some comets and changing their orbits, kind of like how Jupiter does with the comets near it. In 2004, scientists found a weird little world called Sedna. It had a strange path around the Sun that didn't seem to be affected by any of the known planets. Its closest point to the Sun, called perihelion, is way too far for Neptune to be the reason. This made some scientists wonder if Sedna got pushed into its path by a hidden planet, maybe even something as big as Earth or bigger. Others thought maybe it was a star that flew by a long time ago, or another star that formed near ours. Then, in 2014, another odd object was discovered. It had a very similar orbit to Sedna, which made people even more suspicious that there could be something big out there messing with their paths. This kicked off a new round of the Planet X or Planet 9 hunt. At a meeting in 2012, a scientist named Rodney Gomez said that maybe there was a big, hidden planet around 1,500 times farther from the Sun than Earth. He thought it could explain the orbits of other odd objects, like some far-out comets and centaurs, small bodies that wander among the giant planets. At that time, those who supported the Planet 9 theory believed that if it existed, it would move around the Sun in a huge, stretched-out circle called an elliptical orbit. It would be about 400 to 800 times farther from the Sun than Earth is, about 13 to 26 times farther than Neptune. If it really had that kind of orbit, it would take around 10,000 to 20,000 years to go around the Sun just once. Plus, if it indeed orbited the Sun, it wouldn't follow the same flat path as the other planets. its path would be tilted by about 15 degrees to 25 degrees. The farthest point in its orbit, called aphelion, would be in the direction of the Taurus constellation. As for the closest point, it would point towards Serpens, Ophiuchus, or Libra. As for the composition of Planet 9, it would probably be a lot like Uranus or Neptune. It would have a thick atmosphere made of hydrogen and helium, and it would be super cold, negative 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Its core would be made of iron, and its middle layer would be full of rock and water ice. At the same time, if the planet was smaller and denser, then it might be more like Earth, with a rocky surface instead of a gassy one. According to a scientist named Mike Brown, if Planet 9 was real, a space probe would reach it in about 20 years if we used a powerful slingshot path around the Sun.
So, we might be getting closer to finding a massive icy planet beyond Neptune's orbit. Sorry Pluto, still not you. Recently, some universe mapping using data from a telescope in Hawaii eliminated about 78% of the possible locations for this mysterious Waldo from space. Some people call it Planet 9, while others prefer Planet X. Either way, it's been causing controversy since its existence was first proposed, and that is mainly because no study so far can answer the big question: does it really exist? If discovered, Planet 9 would rank as the 5th largest planet in our solar system, with a mass 10 times that of Earth. It's also theorized to be gaseous, like Uranus. The initial study on Planet 9, dating back to 2016, suggests that this colossal new planet orbits the Sun 29 times farther out than Neptune, which sits at about 2.8 billion miles. As a result, the Planet 9 would take between 10,000 and 20,000 years to complete a single orbit around the Sun. If confirmed, this yet-to-be-understood world would dominate a region larger than any other known planet in our cosmic neighborhood. These are all intriguing hypotheses, but without a single piece of evidence or observation to back them up. Before dismissing this as a wild guess, it is important to note that these researchers relied on complex mathematical modeling and computer simulations to speculate about the planet's characteristics, because that's what they do. The hypothetical presence of this planet would explain various mysterious features located beyond Neptune. We are specifically talking about the Kuiper Belt, a huge donut-shaped region filled with icy debris left over from the formation of the solar system, including comets and dwarf planets like Pluto. What happens is that the 6 farthest objects in the Kuiper Belt exhibit elliptical orbits that are all oriented in a similar direction within physical space and tilted approximately 30 degrees downward relative to the orbital plane of our 8 known planets. What's strange here is that, despite their distinct orbital velocities around the solar system, they maintain this alignment. The likelihood of such alignment occurring randomly is extremely low, around 0.007%. So, here comes Planet 9, a hypothetical massive celestial body that offers a plausible explanation for this strange phenomenon, potentially exerting gravitational influence to shape these orbits. The initial theory didn't hold up for long, facing accusations of observational bias and calculation errors. Then, in 2017, another study popped up, sparking back the idea that maybe Planet 9 is out there after all. This time, Spanish astronomers tried a novel approach, focusing on observing extreme trans-Neptunian objects. These celestial bodies orbit the Sun in highly stretched elliptical paths, with average distances exceeding 13 billion miles. The research suggests that the distances between these objects' nodes and the Sun might provide clues to Planet 9's location. You see, these nodes are the points where a celestial body's orbit intersects the solar system's plane. When these objects reach these points, they're more likely to interact with other solar system bodies, potentially causing significant changes in their orbits or even collisions. So, if the trajectory of these extreme trans-Neptunian objects remains stable, everything's fine. But if it's not, well, that's a sign that something else, something big, is messing with their path. And that's exactly what the research found. there is something unseen out there, throwing these objects off course, and that something could be a planet chilling at a distance between 300 to 400 times farther from the Sun than Earth. To this day, the study of the extreme trans-Neptunian objects is the strongest evidence we've got for Planet 9's existence. And if you're still not convinced by this theory, know that strange motions like these have led to planetary discoveries before. Neptune, for instance, was spotted because Uranus's motion didn't quite agree with the predictions of Newtonian gravity. But the deflection of its orbit could be explained if it was caused by a pull of an undiscovered planet. And just like that, we discovered Neptune. Now, the year is 2021, and there's all this buzz about Planet 9 again. After correcting some old guesses, studies are now leaning towards the idea that this mystery world follows an epic loop around the Sun every 7,000 years. That is massive news, because it means this planet might be closer than we ever thought, making it easier for our telescopes to spot it. The paper also suggests there is a whopping 99% chance that the funky orbits of these distant objects are all because of this unseen planet, not just some cosmic coincidence. Now, the odds of this whole situation being a fluke are down to a 1 in 250 chance, which is much better than the 1 in 10,000 chance back in 2016. All these optimistic numbers have brought us to where we are today, keeping our hopes and working on better equipment to continue the mission of spotting Planet 9. As mentioned earlier, researchers in Hawaii created some kind of treasure map utilizing the Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System to eliminate 78% of its locations. This is great news, considering how challenging it is to find a planet-sized needle in a cosmic haystack. But unfortunately, Planet 9's presence remains a ghost in the dark outer reaches of our solar system. Enthusiasts are still convinced of its existence and believe it is only a matter of time before we celebrate the discovery of Earth's new cosmic cousin. They're putting their hopes on the Vera C. Rubin Observatory, which is currently under construction in Chile and is scheduled to begin science operations in late 2025. Over the course of 10 years, this observatory will scan the entire southern hemisphere sky every few nights with a 27-foot, fast-moving telescope equipped with the largest digital camera in the world. The idea is to catalog everything in the solar system, reaching out to and beyond Neptune, and tracking the movements of millions of celestial objects, including space junk, asteroids, comets, and stars. If Planet 9 is indeed out there, this next-generation telescope could be the one to find it. The existence of this mysterious planet is far from being universally accepted in the scientific community. That is simply because Planet 9 isn't the only explanation for the strange phenomenon occurring beyond Neptune. One theory suggests that a group of distant objects, such as dwarf planets, comets, and moons, might be collectively influencing the orbits of the extreme trans-Neptunian objects. Others believe that a black hole is behind all this. These compressed masses are some of the densest objects in the universe, potentially capable of affecting the orbits of other masses, like how this supposed ghost Planet 9 is believed to be doing. Another bold perspective suggests that our current understanding of the laws of gravity is flawed, actually incomplete. This theory, known as modified Newtonian dynamics, proposes that these distant icy objects exhibit strange behavior not due to influence from another planet, but rather because the immense gravitational field of the Milky Way is influencing them. However, even supporters of this theory acknowledge that it is too early to draw firm conclusions, and much more extensive research is still required. While we continue our relentless hunt for Planet 9, some astronomers have taken it a step further, suggesting the existence of a hypothetical Planet 10. This world has a mass and size like that of Mars or Earth and is located on the edges of the Kuiper Belt. But the thing is, if this alleged Planet 10 is indeed as small as scientists believe, it might not have enough gravity to clear its orbit of debris. And that is pretty similar to what happens with Pluto, being one of the reasons why it got into trouble back in 2006. So yeah, it's better not to get too excited. The supposed Planet 10 might end up classified as another dwarf planet.
Alright, dear viewer, let's lay it out on the table. The case is cold, just like the rock we're looking for. It's that hypothetical planet again, a real slippery character, warping orbits from the shadows. I've been following its gravitational rap sheet for years. It has left a trail of math miscalculations and confused astronomers. But it can't hide forever. This solar system ain't that big. If it's there, we will find Planet Y. Yep, another day, another quest to solve the solar system's riddles. New research points to another hidden world. I have to say, we shouldn't dismiss these theories until they're disproven. Scientists these days are overloaded with a vast amount of data. Thankfully, they have supercomputers going through mountains of equations bound to give a headache to someone like me. But it's how these theories come to exist. At one point, even Neptune seemed like a far-fetched theory. When Uranus was discovered in 1781 by William Herschel, for decades, it looked like the solar system's final stop. But Uranus didn't quite follow the rules. Something was off. Either the laws were wrong or there was an invisible hand out there. Two math nerds, Adams in England and Leverrier in France, picked up the abacus, and there it was. Neptune appeared exactly where predicted. That's a cool point for math. That triumph inspired the next hunt. In the early 1900s, Percival Lowell became hooked on the Planet X theory. He was sure Uranus and Neptune were still wobbling funny, so he pictured a giant mystery world yanking their strings. His team hunted for years. And in 1930, Clyde Tombaugh found Pluto. Pluto is Planet X? Nope, not so fast. Pluto was too small, it didn't fit. The hype faded, and decades later, Voyager 2 showed that weird orbits made sense all along. Planet X, at least Lowell's version, had never existed. Then came Planet 9. In 2016, researchers noticed that distant Kuiper Belt objects weren't scattered randomly. Their orbits clustered strangely, as if something was tugging them into line. They proposed a super-Earth, 5 to 10 times Earth's mass, orbiting hundreds of AU away. Simulations made it look convincing, but no one has seen it yet. A later discovery, a dwarf planet called 2017 OF201, made things even weirder. Some say it weakens the case for Planet 9. Others say it's more evidence. For now, Planet 9 is still a maybe. However, latest research points to another possible candidate, for now called Planet Y. Unlike the others, it's thought to be smaller, closer in size to Earth or Mercury, and hiding just past the Kuiper Belt. Here's the big clue. Way past Neptune, some icy objects are all tilted, like a bunch of marbles moving to the same side while on a flat surface. That shouldn't happen. Gravity should have straightened them out ages ago. The simplest explanation? A hidden planet, quietly warping the outer solar system like a mischievous babysitter. Astronomers check those Kuiper Belt orbits against the solar system's invariable plane, basically the balance point of all the planets combined. If things were normal, the orbits should line up, but they don't. They're all slanted the same way, like a bunch of pencils dropped on the floor, and somehow every single one points toward the same corner. According to researchers, the odds of that happening by chance are only 2 to 4%. That's similar to flipping a coin 5 times in a row and it landing on the same side each time. Astrophysicists ran their fancy calculations and came up with the simplest explanation. You guessed it, another object with strong gravity. The math shows that a world somewhere between the size of Mercury and Earth, orbiting 100 to 200 AU from the Sun, could maintain that tilt. Not too big, not too small, not too far, just the right size and distance to warp the Kuiper Belt without throwing everything else into chaos. And here's where it gets fun. In theory, Planet Y could coexist with Planet 9. Planet 9 is supposed to pull icy orbits into clusters, kind of like a sheepdog rounding up sheep. Planet Y doesn't cluster anything. It tilts the whole playing field instead, which means if both turn out to be real, we might have two hidden planets shaping the edges of our solar system in different ways. So why haven't we seen this mysterious neighbor yet? Simple, it's faint. At 100 to 200 AU, sunlight is thousands of times weaker than here on Earth. A planet that far away could only reflect a tiny trickle of light. To our telescopes, it would look like a barely visible speck drifting across a crowded star field. Kind of like trying to spot a sleeping gray cat in a dark cellar with only faint moonlight coming through the window. It doesn't help that Planet Y would move at a snail's pace across the sky. Snap a photo one year and another a few months later, and it might not even look like it moved. Older sky surveys weren't designed to catch something that faint and slow. They're great for spotting fast-moving asteroids near Earth, but hopeless for a dim tortoise crawling at the edge of the solar system. But the hunt isn't over. Astronomers are putting their hopes on the Vera Rubin Observatory. This massive new telescope will take pictures of the night sky in unprecedented detail. If Planet Y is out there, Rubin could be the one to find it. And if it isn't, well, Rubin will give us the best proof yet that it doesn't exist. Who knows, maybe it spots something entirely different. But what if Planet Y is real? Where did it come from? Perhaps it's a leftover chunk from the solar system's wild early years. Billions of years ago, when Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune were still migrating, massive chunks of rock and ice were flung around like cosmic bumper cars. Some merged to become the planets we know today. Others were kicked out entirely, ejected into interstellar space. Planet Y might be one of the lucky survivors, massive enough to hang on in a stable orbit at the fringes. Another possibility is way cooler. Maybe it's a rogue planet. Planet Y might just be the cosmic equivalent of an adopted kid or a wandering stray that found a home. So what would it mean if Planet Y was real? First, it would mean a lot of textbooks getting another edition. New picture books as well. It would also challenge how we think planets form. A Mercury to Earth mass that far doesn't fit the standard model of planets forming near the Sun and staying put. Either the early solar system was wild enough to fling it outward and still keep it bound, or it didn't start here at all and was captured later, stolen from another star. There's another angle. Comets. A planet out there could tug on icy bodies at the edge of the solar system, nudging some inward. Over time, that might even have helped deliver water and building blocks for life to Earth, but that's just speculation at this point. However, the biggest question of all would be, what else is out there? If a planet the size of Earth can still slip under our radar, then smaller worlds, icy dwarfs, and other mysteries could be waiting farther out. The Oort cloud might be home to things we haven't even dreamed of yet. Finding Planet Y wouldn't just add a planet, it would open a new chapter in exploring the solar system. So, here we are at the edge of the map, where the streetlights of our solar system flicker out. It's just another theory on top of a dusty desk. Another clue to chase down a dark universe. Some leads have gone cold and turned out to be ghosts. Others, still out there, waiting to be found. Planet Y? The case is still wide open, but one thing's for sure in our solar system. As long as the orbits keep wobbling and the cosmic rug stays wrinkled, astronomers, they'll keep looking. They'll never stop searching for the last planet hiding in the endless dark. Maybe it's just a matter of time. We will see.
How about a mysterious object that used to orbit between Mars and Jupiter? At one point in the early days of the solar system, it was destroyed by some catastrophic event. The space body is called Phaeton, and this planet is totally hypothetical. But some people believe that the debris the planet left behind could have formed the asteroid belt. If you like this kind of content, please give it a non-hypothetical like and subscribe. Your support is very important to us. Thank you. Now, at the start of the 19th century, people hadn't discovered the asteroid belt yet. But in 1801, one astronomer spotted the largest asteroid in our solar system, Ceres. At that time, it was believed that a planet was orbiting between Mars and Jupiter, and Ceres seemed to be a suitable candidate. But the next year, another astronomer discovered one more space object with a similar orbit. It was an asteroid that was later named Pallas. These discoveries made scientists conclude that these two objects could have been fragments of the very planet that had once been dwelling between Mars and Jupiter. The following discovery of two more asteroids, Juno and Vesta, seemed to confirm this idea. Only in the 20th century did the hypothetical planet get its name, Phaeton. It was actually a name taken from Greek mythology, meaning shining one. The hero with this name was the son of the sun deity, Helios, who rode his solar chariot across the sky every day, giving humans the heat and light necessary for survival. One day, Helios allowed Phaeton to drive his chariot. But the sun didn't manage to control the horses. Everything went wrong, and Earth was about to burn down. That's why the main deity, Zeus, had to stop Phaeton with a thunderbolt. The idea of the asteroid belt being the sad result of the planet's destruction was called the disruption theory. And of course, there were several ideas explaining the planet's tragic fate. The most obvious one is that Phaeton was hit by a large space object. It could be another hypothetical body called Nemesis. Some people believe that it's our sun's companion star. According to this theory, the sun has a small companion star that has an extremely elliptical orbit. This orbit periodically brings it close to the Oort cloud, a large sphere of icy objects surrounding the sun. This, in turn, causes a lot of mess. It might be the reason why this hypothetical companion star was also nicknamed the Death Star. It might be a red or brown dwarf. But whatever it is at the furthest point of its orbit, it's believed to be about 1.5 light-years away. The search for this star has been in progress for decades, but no one has succeeded in locating this elusive and potentially non-existent space object. Anyway, back to Phaeton. Another theory claims that the planet could have suffered some internal cataclysm which tore it apart. But these days, the disruption theory has fallen out of favor. It was replaced by the accretion theory. According to it, the asteroid belt formed in the process of gradual buildup of particles initially floating in a gaseous environment. With time, they came together to create larger masses. Gravity pulled on these particles, encouraging them to stay together and form planetesimals, tiny planet-like bodies that later form real planets. Planetesimals kept colliding with one another, eventually developing into protoplanets. Such protoplanets grow until they form planetary bodies. As the mass of objects increases, the gravitational forces acting between particles become stronger too, continuing to build gas, dust, and ice within the nebular disk. It all has a snowball effect where the increase in mass results in more particles getting involved in the process. Eventually, there's no building material left, and large space objects float in the darkness of space. Now, many experts think that the asteroid belt is the remains of the protoplanetary disk which had once been orbiting the sun before the planets formed. Unfortunately, it never had a chance to coalesce into a planet because Jupiter's gravitational effect prevented it from happening. In any case, even though Phaeton's was a good story, it's not popular anymore.
At the edge of our solar system, there's a cold and mysterious region known as the Oort cloud. It's a hypothetical vast area of icy space objects surrounding the sun. It's believed to lie far, far away from our star, from 2,000 to 5,000 astronomical units. For comparison, Pluto's orbit carries the planet between 30 and 50 astronomical units from the sun. And there, in this freezing emptiness, a rogue planet may be hiding right at the moment. At least, that's what new research has recently suggested. Rogue planets are called this way because they don't orbit around any star. They wander the galaxy alone, totally untethered. Without stars, they don't have days or nights, only eternal darkness. Rogue planets are usually kicked out of their planetary systems doomed to a solitary existence of circling the center of the galaxy on their own. Of the thousands of planets scientists have detected outside of our solar system, only a dozen or so are starless and cruising on their own. At the same time, there might be billions or even trillions of rogue planets wandering around our galaxy. If these estimations are true, it might mean that the Milky Way contains more free-floating planets than stars. Anyway, in 1907, one astronomer started a search for Planet X. It's a hypothetical giant planet moving around the Sun beyond the orbit of Neptune. The scientist was convinced that this planet existed because he had observed some irregularities in the orbits of Uranus and Neptune. His idea led to the discovery of Pluto in 1930. But the dwarf planet was too small to have any serious gravitational impact on the orbit of Neptune, let alone Uranus. These days, the Planet X theory is largely considered to be discredited, but it hasn't stopped astronomers from searching for planets in the far reaches of our solar system. And shockingly, a new study claims there might be one or even more out there, but much, much further away than predicted. An international team of scientists has recently simulated the unstable celestial mechanisms of the early solar system. They've discovered that there's a possibility that a few planet-sized bodies might have come to rest in the Oort cloud. You see, about 4.5 billion years ago, when the solar system was just forming, it was a hectic and unsettled place. Gravity sent debris from the cooling protoplanetary dust cloud hurtling around like cosmic tennis balls. From time to time, large chunks of this debris, even planet-sized ones, were sent flying far enough to escape the Sun's gravity altogether. Such pieces of debris turned into rogue planets. Researchers have seen such space wanderers in distant exoplanetary systems, but according to them, there's a 0.5% chance that one or more of those wayward planets formed in the solar system and ended up in the Oort cloud after drifting away from the Sun. At the same time, it's slightly more likely that a rogue, Neptune-like planet was snagged by the Sun's gravity from another planetary system. And then, this planet came to rest somewhere in the Oort cloud. The chances that this scenario is true reach 7%. If this turns out to be the case, then a space body similar to Planet X might indeed be hiding out there, on the outskirts of our solar system. The only problem is that it would still be too far away to have any impact on Neptune's orbit. In any case, most researchers are convinced that the Oort cloud is made up of a collection of way smaller icy objects. But given the distance to the Oort cloud and its enormous size, we may never really figure out what is lurking out there.
Okay, it seems scientists have come across a strange object in space, and they're not sure if it's a star or a planet. What we do know is that it's located 1,400 light-years away from us, and it makes us question what we thought we knew about the universe. Let me explain the dilemma here. We can tell if something is a star or a planet by considering the object's mass or the amount of stuff it has. Stars have a lot of mass, which gives them strong gravity that squeezes them tightly. Squeezing creates high temperatures inside them, causing them to shine brightly. Planets have less mass, so their gravity is weaker. They don't experience the same squeezing or high temperatures as stars. Instead, planets shine because they reflect the light from their stars, like our beautiful Earth does with our Sun, too. And this weirdo falls somewhere in between, since we consider it a brown dwarf. It's a special type of big, gaseous protostars. Brown dwarfs are usually like Jupiter in terms of their atmosphere, but they are much larger in size, about 13 to 80 times. If a brown dwarf has more than 80 times the mass of Jupiter, it can start burning regular hydrogen, just like a star. That's what usually makes stars shine brightly. But normally, brown dwarfs are not as hot as stars. Their inability to burn hydrogen has even earned them the nickname of failed stars. They burn at around 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is cooler than most stars. But this object defies the norm. Its temperature measures an incredible 13,900 degrees Fahrenheit. Now let's put that into perspective. The hottest day in history was reported to happen in Death Valley, California, more than 100 years ago, with a temperature of 134 degrees Fahrenheit. People back then must have felt like they were melting along with everything around them. Now imagine getting closer to the Sun, like taking a trip to Venus. Venus can reach insane temperatures of 860 degrees. It's not only about the distance, though. Mercury is the planet closest to the Sun, but it's still colder than Venus. Venus is extremely hot due to the greenhouse effect. Did you know that Venus could have been a delightful place to live a long time ago? Or at least be home to any form of life. But at some point, it started to trap carbon dioxide and eventually created this thick, smoggy oven that doesn't release heat. And that's why it's so hard to explore. The longest a probe managed to last on Venus was 2 hours. But hey, that's longer than I can do at work, and then I melt. So yeah, then you get to the Sun. Its surface burns at an incredible 9,930 degrees Fahrenheit. And what's fascinating is that this weird brown star we're talking about is hotter than that. I mean, it's not hotter than the Sun's core, whose temperatures go up to 27 million degrees, but it's still very impressive and unusual for a brown dwarf to be this hot. At least, that's what everyone thought until they realized why it was happening. The brown dwarf is remarkably close to another star that falls into the category of white dwarfs. They're so close to each other that our mysterious star makes one orbit around its white dwarf friend in just 2.3 hours. Woo! How old we'd be over there! Since they're this close, they're tidally locked like our moon and Earth. That means one side of this brown dwarf always faces the white dwarf, and the other side is forever in darkness. Because of all this, our brown dwarf is superheated on one side only. So its day side is what got us confused. While the temperature on the night side is what you would expect from a brown dwarf. But these extreme conditions won't last long. Such a hot temperature makes the molecules in the dwarf's atmosphere break apart into individual atoms. And while its molecules are falling apart, this brown dwarf is slowly disappearing. And if you think this brown dwarf is hot, what would you say about Eta Carinae? It's a star located about 7,500 light-years away from Earth, and it belongs to an elite group of stars we call luminous blue variables. One astronomer first noticed it in the 17th century, but back then, it was just a regular medium-bright star. Almost 200 years later, another astronomer was observing it. But this time, it was a very bright star, one of the brightest ones in the sky. A few years later, it reached the highest level of brightness in a big event called the Great Eruption. When it happened, the star could be easily seen in the night sky. It released so much light, as much as is emitted in a supernova explosion. It remained like that for a couple of years, which is not what usually happens with exploding stars. After the party reached its peak, the star decided it was time to leave. It's still hesitating though, so it's still alive but dimmer than before. There's a nebula around Eta Carinae too. It is a shell made of gas and dust that formed during the Great Eruption. It even blocks some of the star's light. Eta Carinae is a binary star system. That means there are two stars that orbit around each other. One component has a temperature of about 26,500 degrees, and the other 62,500 degrees. The main star in the Eta Carinae system, which is the more massive of the two, is 100 times heavier than our Sun. Because of its enormous mass, scientists predict that this star may eventually explode in a powerful event known as a supernova. But not for another several thousand years. So, by now, you might have already guessed what the hottest thing in the universe is. Ta-da! A supernova. The supernova is what tells us that the life of a star has ended. We're talking about the most powerful explosions in space. They happen when a star that's between 8 and 40 times more massive than our Sun flops. Its core can no longer create enough energy through a process called fusion, so the star can't even handle its own gravity. It's like a stellar burnout, too much work a star can't handle, and its core just collapses. During a supernova, the temperatures in the star's core can get 6,000 times higher than in the core of the Sun. Or sometimes, a specific type of star called a white dwarf suddenly restarts its nuclear fusion, and bam, you get a supernova again. Kepler's supernova happened at the beginning of the 17th century, and it was the last really big supernova event we directly observed from Earth. On average, supernovas in our galaxy happen 3 times every century. I mean, we got a smaller supernova in 1987 too, when a blue supergiant exploded in one of the Milky Way's satellite galaxies, which we know as the Large Magellanic Cloud. This explosion was so strong, people could even observe it with the unaided eye, even though it was incredibly far, 168,000 light-years away from our home planet. What a topic for summer days, huh? But check this out. We can also talk about the hottest thing people have ever created, made in a surprising place, Switzerland. Nah, we're not talking about a super hot chocolate. A group of scientists there created a subatomic soup called a quark-gluon plasma. In this experiment, the temperature got 250,000 times as hot as the Sun's core. The purpose of this experiment was to recreate the conditions that existed shortly after the Big Bang, when the universe was still in a state of chaos. Okay, let's get even more extreme. In theory, things can get even hotter. Have you heard of the Planck temperature? It's an insanely hot temperature with numbers so high we can't even imagine. A supernova is like tepid tea compared to this madness. And who even knows what the matter does at these temperatures? Okay, I'm done. Now we take you back to your regular universe. Bye now. So, planets with 2 suns, like Tatooine from Star Wars, used to sound like pure fantasy. For decades, scientists believed these systems were too unstable to exist. 2 stars tugging at a planet should fling it into space or drop it into one of the suns. Except, it turns out that nature didn't get the memo. Astronomers have found a planet calmly orbiting 2 stars like it's no big deal. This planet lives closer to its 2 parent stars than any other directly imaged planet in a binary star system astronomers have ever seen. Now, direct imaging means they saw the planet's light, not just its shadow. The whole system sits about 446 light-years away, so the light we see from it today left before humans ever built modern cities. This space monster is roughly 6 times the mass of Jupiter. And even more surprising, the planet is only about 13 million years old. That sounds ancient until you zoom out a little. Earth is about 4.6 billion years old, which makes this planet basically a newborn in cosmic terms. The 2 suns of this monster orbit each other incredibly fast and complete a full loop in just 18 Earth days. That means their gravity constantly shifts, yanking space around them like a cosmic washing machine. Even so, the planet stays locked in its path, so it takes it 300 Earth years to finish a single orbit. So nobody fully understands how this planet formed in the first place. When 2 stars orbit each other this closely, their gravity usually tears apart planet-forming material before anything big can take shape. Scientists have only found a few dozen planets like this so far, and that's nowhere near enough to piece together the full story. To solve the mystery, they need more data. Now, another cool find that still needs more research is a planet so stretched by gravity that it looks like a lemon, not a sphere. This planet is nothing like the calm blue and green worlds we see in space movies. It orbits a pulsar, which is basically a star's corpse. When a massive star expires, it collapses into an ultra-dense object that spins insanely fast and blasts radiation like a cosmic lighthouse. Being near one of those means game over for anything solid. And yet, this planet hangs on, barely. The gravity stretches it, pulling harder on the side facing the pulsar than the far side, like cosmic taffy. And here's where it gets extra unsettling. When scientists analyzed this planet's atmosphere, they didn't find water or oxygen. They found helium and pure carbon. No clouds, no oceans, no chance of life. According to everything we know about planet formation, this world shouldn't exist at all. So it might not be a planet in the normal sense. It could be the exposed core of a star that got shredded, leaving behind something stuck between planet and stellar corpse. That's a pretty scary trend. The line between planets and stars keeps getting blurry. And speaking of scary, meet this guy. This system lives around two red dwarf stars. These two stars orbit each other at a distance similar to how far Jupiter sits from the Sun. Scientists found two Earth-sized planets and a third possible one squeezed right up next to the stars. One planet completes a full year in just over 2 days. Another takes about 3.5 days. The candidate planet orbits even faster. To put that in perspective, these planets sit less than 2 million miles from their star. The Moon sits about 250,000 miles from Earth. So yeah, these worlds are close. When they combined data from space and ground-based telescopes, astronomers realized they were staring at something totally new: planets that transit or pass in front of both stars. Most planets in double-star systems orbit only one star, and this setup shouldn't last long according to the rules of physics. But these planets exist anyway, calmly breaking the rules. So this guy proves that planet formation works in ways we still don't fully understand, and space clearly enjoys messing with our expectations. Now, let's crank up the horror a notch. Astronomers made the first ever 3D map of a planet outside our solar system. And not just any planet. This one is so hot it literally tears water molecules apart. As the planet moved behind its star, the James Webb watched tiny changes in the star's light at different colors or wavelengths. Some colors get absorbed by water vapor, others don't. By stacking all that info together, scientists figured out temperatures at different heights and locations in the planet's atmosphere. And that's how they learned that parts of its atmosphere heat up to nearly 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than molten lava. This superhot planet sits about 400 light-years away and weighs around 10 times as much as Jupiter. It races around its star in just 23 hours. 1 year there is basically a day. And because it's so close, the temperatures get so high. Winds try to move heat around, but they totally fail. WASP 18b's atmosphere barely has any water and instead overflows with carbon monoxide. Astronomers once believed water should be common in giant planet atmospheres. This world proves water is optional, not guaranteed. Now, magma worlds are another perfect proof of that. There's a huge group of planets called sub-Neptunes, planets bigger than Earth but smaller than Neptune. For a while, some scientists hoped these worlds were Haitian planets, covered in deep oceans of water or ice, wrapped in thick atmospheres. One famous example was K2-18. Its atmosphere showed methane and carbon dioxide, but almost no ammonia. But as it turned out, lava dissolves ammonia too, so the missing ammonia doesn't prove water at all. It could just mean the planet has a global ocean of magma instead. The researchers modeled how these planets heat up, cool down, and evolve over time. They asked a simple question: do these planets ever cool enough to stop being lava worlds? And the answer was almost never. When they tested thousands of known sub-Neptunes, they say almost all of them are likely lava worlds, not water worlds. In simple terms, these planets don't breathe water vapor, they breathe rock vapor. Their atmospheres come from magma boiling, not oceans evaporating. And that changes everything. Many worlds we once labeled maybe habitable turn into hellscapes the moment you run the numbers honestly. And that means space isn't hiding Earth clones, but mass-producing furnaces and other sorts of monsters. Take this bad boy, for instance. It sits only about 64 light-years away, which is uncomfortably close in cosmic terms, and it's the nearest hot Jupiter to Earth. From afar, it looks stunning. a smooth, deep blue marble floating peacefully in space. But that color hides something absolutely brutal. On this planet, it rains glass, sideways. Winds scream across the atmosphere at around 5,400 miles per hour, fast enough to shred anything instantly. The blue color comes from tiny particles of silicate, the stuff glass is made of, floating in the air. The planet's surface temperature hits about 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt rock. That heat turns those silicates into microscopic shards of glass that whip around the planet like a worldwide sandblaster. Standing there wouldn't hurt. You wouldn't exist long enough to ever feel it. And then there's the darkest planet ever found. It reflects less than 1% of the light that hits it. It's darker than coal, darker than black paint. Light just disappears into it. Not all planets even bother with stars at all. Astronomers have found rogue planets, worlds kicked out of their solar systems. These lonely planets drift through space in total darkness, frozen and untethered, with no sunrise ever again. Now, all of this shows us that our universe isn't designed for life. Life survives despite the universe, not because of it. Earth isn't typical, it's lucky. We're only at the beginning of this discovery era. Every year, new telescopes sharpen the picture, and every year, the picture gets stranger. The more clearly we see the universe, the less it resembles our imagination. And that's the most unsettling truth of all. Did you know that the moon is rusting? No, not rustic, rusting. Well, that sounds impossible because rust needs oxygen, and the moon, well, it doesn't have it. Or so we thought. Apparently, Earth is leaking its air, and it's marinating the moon. It might have been like that for billions of years. What does this mean? And why do scientists say it's great news for a future lunar base? Well, let's find out. A few years ago, the Indian Space Research Organization sent a probe called Chandrayaan-1 to orbit the moon. Its mission was to take some nice pictures, but it also was carrying a NASA-built instrument designed to chemically map the surface. The readings came back showing something scientists didn't expect on the moon: hematite. It's an iron oxide, or in plain words, rust. It's the same red, rusty material that eats through your garden fence or a forgotten bicycle chain. Finding rust on Earth is normal because our planet is wet and airy. You need a strict recipe to make it happen. You need iron, you need water, and you need oxygen. The moon already has the first ingredient for rust because its surface is rich in iron from billions of years of asteroid impacts. But the other two ingredients are missing. There is no atmosphere to provide oxygen, and there is no liquid water gathering on the surface. But it goes beyond that. Space actually hates rust. The sun constantly blasts the moon with the solar wind, a stream of fast particles made mostly of hydrogen. Well, these particles tend to strip oxygen away from rocks instead of adding it. All of that makes it obvious why hematite doesn't belong anywhere near our satellite. But these results don't lie. The presence of hematite means that somehow, despite the vacuum and the sun's particle stream, the moon is getting a steady supply of oxygen. It's not coming from deep space or the lunar core. Also, the rust isn't spread evenly. The data showed that the hematite is more concentrated on the side of the moon that faces Earth. The far side is mostly clean. Now, the only oxidizer close enough to do the job is Earth. We learned at school that Earth's atmosphere ends at the Kármán line, about 62 miles up. That's where space officially begins. But that's just the thick part. In reality, Earth is wrapped in a gigantic invisible cloud of hydrogen called the geocorona. It's enormous. It glows in ultraviolet light, and it stretches almost 400,000 miles into space. That's farther than the moon's orbit. This means that despite being very far away, the moon is still within the outer edges of Earth's atmosphere. If you were standing on the moon, looking back at Earth with a telescope that can see ultraviolet hydrogen, Earth wouldn't look like a blue marble. It would look like it's wearing a huge, fuzzy, glowing halo. Now, when we picture Earth and the moon, we imagine a huge, clean gap between them. Two worlds separated by nothing. But that nothing isn't actually empty. The two are already connected by gravity, tugging on each other nonstop. But there's another kind of connection most people never think about. Earth is surrounded by an invisible force called a magnetic field. It's created deep inside the planet and stretches far out into space. We don't see it, but it's the reason compasses work and the sun doesn't strip our atmosphere away. This magnetic field doesn't just stop at Earth's surface. It doesn't sit there like a perfect bubble either. The solar wind pushes on it non-stop, stretching it out behind Earth into a long magnetic tail that reaches hundreds of thousands of miles into space, like a tail trailing behind a moving comet. That tail is how Earth's oxygen ends up on the moon. The sun slams into Earth's upper atmosphere, knocking oxygen and nitrogen atoms loose and turning them into charged particles. Normally, they drift off into space, but because they're charged, Earth's magnetic field grabs them and sends them backward, down the magnetic tail. Most of the time, the moon is off to the side doing its own thing. But once a month, right around the full moon, it slides straight into Earth's magnetic ponytail. Inside that tail, Earth blocks the harsh solar wind and gives the moon a few days of calm. But it's still moving straight through particles leaking from Earth. Those particles collide with the surface and react with the iron in the soil. Repeat that long enough, and it adds up. Earth loses tiny traces of its air, and the moon quietly collects them using its weak gravity like a slow, patient net. It's like driving behind a dirty truck. Dirt flies off of it, but you don't really notice until it starts sticking to your windshield. The same thing happens on the moon, except, no windshield. We actually have proof of this happening in real time. A Japanese probe called Kaguya was hanging out in lunar orbit, and its sensors spiked when the moon passed through Earth's magnetic tail. It detected a surge of high-energy oxygen ions. Scientists call it the Earth wind. It acts like the solar wind, except instead of being hot particles from a star, it's made from leftovers of our own atmosphere. And this suddenly makes the moon part of a much bigger story. Scientists think this kind of atmospheric escape can help explain what happened to planets like Mars. The red planet doesn't have a global magnetic field today, but long ago it probably did. When that shield failed, its atmosphere had a much easier time leaking away. Studying Earth and the moon is like watching a version of that process on replay, just in slow motion. And it's not unique. Near the edge of the solar system, Pluto's thin atmosphere is slowly being stolen by its moon Charon. Ooh, larceny in space. Pluto's gravity is so weak that its atmosphere stretches far into space. When those gas particles drift close enough, Charon's gravity simply grabs them. No magnetic field needed, just a leaky planet and a nearby moon pulling the material away. Now, when the Apollo astronauts brought lunar soil to Earth, it was already loaded with hydrogen from the solar wind. The sun sprays the lunar surface with hydrogen, and over time, that hydrogen gets baked straight into the dust. That's the H, but you still need the O2 to create water. The regolith may already contain trace amounts of oxygen locked into minerals and dust, not as ice, but as something that can potentially be processed. It would mean that regolith is not just a nuisance that destroys gear and rovers. For a future lunar base, even small amounts matter. Water is heavy. Launching it from Earth is a nightmare. If the moon can supply even part of what astronauts need, it could make a difference. Now, another cool side effect of this discovery is that drilling into the moon could tell us more about Earth's history. You see, our planet is terrible at keeping records. It's like a giant recycling machine. It's always changing. Tectonic plates grind the crust down and melt it into magma. Winds and rains erode rocks. The air that we breathe now is different from the one that was around 2 billion years ago. Now, we can guess what the ancient atmosphere was like, but we don't have a physical sample. The moon is the complete opposite. It's cold and static. When those Earth particles land on the moon, they get buried under dust and stay there. They're trapped in the crystal lattice of the soil. Think of the lunar surface like an ice core in Antarctica. The deeper we dig, the further back in time we go. If we drill a core sample on the moon, we might, theoretically, find layers of oxygen and nitrogen from 2.5 billion years ago. That is right around the Great Oxidation Event, when microbes first started pumping oxygen into our atmosphere. That could tell us something we don't know. It could prove that life started earlier than we thought. It could show us exactly how a dead planet turns into a living one. That's another answer you can give the next time somebody asks why we should go back to the moon. Also to find the green cheese. Hey, just Google it.